Okay, hi and welcome to the 7th take of 10th week. And a door, yeah, okay, we're just gonna keep going. I'm trying to do an abridged version. I've got like at least an hour and a half of going through all the guides and connections and stuff like that, just to cover all the bases. And then because I couldn't even remember half of who anybody was when I was trying to record it all, but that's a bit much. That's a bit much to ask anybody to stick with, although it might be helpful at some point for me in later years working with this book, or anybody else that really is struggling and needs detail work. But let me see if I can do an abridged version of what I cover in that, so that everybody can get on with their lives and get into cruise ship Pisces. So in terms of guides and how they're helping you in this house, first thing I did was I was analyzing. This is all I've written, and I did this like last week sometime. And I appreciate that. Now, one thing I'll point out again, the 10th house being opposite the 4th house on the chart, yes? So that the fact that all of my Cancerian, my moon placements, okay, the compass, affects how, when I ran out of tarot cards, I was left with Capricorn cards, yes? So that's not an accident. Same as Taurus being opposite Scorpius, yes? And the fact that all my Scorpius, all the tarot cards were cleared up except for marking out my 8th house, except for my Taurus, the tarot cards for Taurus, right? So prediction is that by the time, that we get into Pisces in the next video, by the time we've sorted out all placements in Pisces, yes, let's see if we're left with Virgo cards in the tarot, okay? And in terms of the numerology of the 4th house being stability, okay, very much, I think that's where all this hard work is coming in for, is if we come from the 8, 8 is progress, 4 is stability, and then 12 breaks down to 3, which is manifestation. And of course, all together they add up and they reduce to a 6, which are gifts, okay? So we're looking for those gifts from spirit, from guides, ultimately, by the time we're done our water story. And so in order to be clear on the progress that we've made to get here, to understand, the first comes the progress where we can understand 4 properly and get stable in that 4. And then we've got the manifestations of the 3 of the 12th house, if you can follow me there. So prepare for work, prepare for now that we've gone and backtracked, because that's exactly what Cancer does. We backtrack. Let me stick this at the bottom, not where it belongs, but just for speed's sake. So there's I looked at my moon placement in Aquarius and who's connected in my family to me through Aquarius placements, the years of what I did in Aquarius years, and I start to see how things actually do carry a theme. My Lilith in Gemini, who's connected to me as a Gemini placement, and what happened in my Gemini years, and then composite with lunar placements, right? Gemini years, Lilith years. I start breaking all that up, articulating all of that, right? Like my father is an Aquarius with Gemini rising, strong Sagittarius placements. My mom, Pisces, Leo rising. And they both have Pisces placements play out strong in my family. My grandmother, who's another, now my mom died when I was just before I turned 13, right? And I know she's very much involved in my life. And it took a long time to get to that. It took a long time to work. We were not close in this life together. We struggled very much, but she was dying most of the time, and she was also a professional singer. So between performance and cancer treatments, which weren't even, well, let's talk chemo, right? Off and on for about 8 years. So there'd be a performance year and then a treatment year, a performance year, you know, that kind of thing. And then my grandma was a Leo, but I don't know what rising she is. And that's really all the family that I'm close to. I have a lot of family, and they're in many places, and we originate, like I'm only second generation Canadian. So my grandmother, my dad's mother, was born in Shoreditch in London and then brought over as a baby. The rest of, like my mom was born in Saskatchewan, my dad was born in Winnipeg. They met in Winnipeg as late teens and were married in their early 20s. What's interesting is that their backgrounds, they both have Scottish backgrounds as well as, well, the Scottish goes back to the Irish, but they both have English as well. But the Scottish names, there are 3 family names, Ross, Patterson, and McLaughlin, and they all come from Argyllshire, and that's going to play out later in terms of definitely an ancestral thing. The one family named McLaughlin comes from the O'Neills in Ireland. Lachlan was a favorite first name in the O'Neill clan, and then Lachlan branched off, broke off, went over to Scotland and formed a clan there, right? Now, Argyllshire, there's somebody that comes from a Campbell clan in Argyllshire named Michael Aquino. And Michael, or Aquino, as I don't know how he can, but anyway, it's nothing compared to the rest of the stuff he's done. And that's somebody that life has definitely, his agents, his minions, his survivors, life has definitely pulled me into their world. There's definitely, and so the gas station explosion that I caused last year was because I was confronting one of his minions, Lucian Greaves, who refuses to admit that he is one of his minions. But anyway, but I didn't know that Aquino was a Campbell from the clan Campbell, and he's Scottish, right? Mason, yes. I didn't know that he was a Campbell until one of the other minions put evidence my way, an interview, right, that I listened to painstakingly, painfully, I should say, and I find out, oh, okay, here's him talking about his, you know, his family roots in Argyllshire. I'm like, damn it all, then, because I know what I know about my family. So what's that, right? I'm going to try and calm my speech down, but this is the 7th take. I'm just a little bit, let me show you what these guys did to me. And you might argue that, that I do it to myself, but if you're here and I'm here, we're both already accepting that we're on a different kind of journey, a very intentional journey. So when I recorded the other videos for this, there were only 11 pages to the photo diary. Remember how in 8th house I was like 5 pages is enough? I hope it doesn't get bigger than that, except for the work that we have to do in Cancer, the backtracking. So a lot of this is, this is 13 pages that I came up with, and however many guides you can fit on a page, right? I'm not even, in the other videos, I go into the details of who's who and what's what, but I'll just touch on the fact that yellow came through strongly, and yellow is a color of Oshun of the Orisha, and she is in charge of the fresh water, all the fresh water on earth. And that stuck with me because Cancer, I put Cancer in fresh water as a houseboat, yes. Pisces and Scorpius, salt water. We're going to meet Yemaya, who is in charge of the salt water. So you might want to look into the Orisha, the Yoruba, that's from the Yoruba in Africa. It might be from other people as well, but I know at least the Yoruba. And so, so that surfaced. Of course, Diana, I have huge links to Diana and the murder of Diana, and the Australian who did 11 books about the, you know, the fake inquest into her murder. We know the truth of all that, and I keep researching it, and it ties into everything else. When I moved out to Prince Edward Island when I was 19, that was my big break, my big exodus. And that leads to Anna Green Gables, and then that takes us into colonialism. Well, colonialism's too nice a word, right? But I just reached there, and Diana was dead within 2 days. Well, that night happened within 2 days, yes. I don't know, she wasn't dead that night. And she would have been fine. Her injuries, and that was the problem, her injuries weren't, well, I don't think they actually, anyway. sacrifice, but however long it took, it took. So there's a huge amount of stuff for me there. Of course, we're looking at left eye Lisa, and Aaliyah is down in the bottom of the search results for left eye. So Aaliyah is coming up in August, and that's another sacrifice that she didn't want to make. So a lot of what I do, this is what they get me to do, and I naturally keep track. I won't keep up this pace of keeping track because I have to move into that 3 of the 12 of the cruise ship in Pisces of manifesting, of creating. Yes, so you can't keep track and then create at the same time. It's way too much work. But for the sake of this house, I went full steam with what I do for this is similar to what I do for evidence files. Okay, and it's also, I spent 7 years in fabric sales. I was the star salesperson in fabric and the go-to person as the middleman. And so a lot of time spent with quilters, and I'm looking at this going, this is like quilting. Right? Me and my InShot app. I don't know if anybody uses InShot half as much as I use it, but now this went into more of the astrology guides, what they had me doing, articulating about sidereal versus tropical and Vedic and Vedic. There's evidence here, but more evidence about Sloan Bella. It's like if you look up psychic Sloan Bella on YouTube or even at her website, whatever, the death of her and the investigations into her son's hit and run, Keith, from last July. So I'm tied to that. I've given her space for now. I went out of body. I think I might have mentioned that previously. And then the reasons why, because it linked me to evidence about Keith's, the people connected to Keith's death. Miriam Kramer, some shout outs I want to make to some new, and that has everything to do with Paul Gallico and Poseidon Adventure, and we get into all the conflicts of interest. Barbarella was a huge inspiration for my my thinking, my work, but I want to say that there are 2 artists connected to that, and I went digging because this is motivating, but Frank Frazetta meant a lot to me. I discovered him, or he led me to him, or somebody led me to him several years ago in the library. A lot of my stuff started in the library. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to forget to go back and start where it needs to start. For Cancer House, Bruce Lee, who, however he screwed up with the Masons, he paid for it, didn't he? Patience is not passive. On the contrary, it is concentrated strength. Patience is not passive. On the contrary, it is concentrated strength. And that was put my way during this house, and I feel like that is completely, that feels so Cancerian to me. Now, Audrey's here because Audrey's birthday was May 4th. And Audrey's death got me drawing again after 13 years of not expressing myself. After painting the pink spider that is this pink spider when I was age 2, and I got into big trouble for it because I went into a room it was a Tiny Tots program that we were getting orientation for, and I ran off. The room was ready, it was beautiful, the sun was shining, and I needed to do something about the paints that were set up with the poster paper, and I painted a huge pink spider, and then they came and found me and said, no, you're not registered in the program yet, you shouldn't be doing this, and that's all my own memory. Nobody told that to me. And so I always felt like I was alone in that. I didn't express myself after that until Audrey died, and I did the Scorpio thing of wanting to transmute. I didn't know I was Scorpio, and I didn't know how big this pink spider thing was that I did when I was 2, but it is everything. So watch your 2-year-olds. But I wanted to transmute, yes, the loss into hanging on to some part of the life, yeah? And so that's the thing that I do, is drawing for me is a way of, and we know this is the power of symbols, this is the power of visuals, is to actually re-feed some energy, yes? Who else do I want to shout out to? Here I have Empress of Love Tarot. She keeps me going in my Taurus energy. She's just amazing. She's also, well, several times, if I need to stay steady, and keep focused, right? She's definitely one of the ones. Dowlow, the Pilot Man, I needed to, he decided to pick a fight with siderealists and the Vedic, and so, anyway, but he's one of the few that confronts the Masonry. Okay, so I just love how different everything is. Now, okay, so evidence about Sloan. So I've got tons of, Yates showed up again with an agent. So there's mockery going on around Yates, spiritual mockery. Isaac Cappy. So I've got a lot of guides that are invested in me, continuously keeping up with evidence, right? Miriam Kramer. Awesome read for Scorpio, but for she's just retired Marine, I believe, and so sometimes we'll, but that's the whole thing. Okay, more evidence about connected to my Hampstead case and people that I cope with in that, which is going to tie completely to the discovery of the 215 children. Well, it's discovery, right? That is completely a controlled story. I've been reaching out to people in that and getting totally, both sides are frosting me out. So, what do I want to say? Here are my murder victims and my violent death victims. Some of them, here's like the core of the victims that have come into my life some of them were already in my life. Some of them come into my life through cleaning clients. Pretty much every house I ended up cleaning was connected to somebody. There was no accident with the houses that I ended up cleaning. I've connected more Hampstead information. If you look up the Hampstead case, I'm at the core of that. I'm one of the people at the core of that. Let me get the fridge. But anyway, that stuff, once you're in it and you're in deep enough, then there's really only one way to go. There's only one thing for Scorpio to do, and that's to keep going till we get everything. Okay. Take That concert made my day, saved me in a situation. My guides come through for me with Take That. Now there's going to be issues around Take That and mind control as well. Same with any mainstream, big pop, whatever. But there was that what do I want to say? Yep, still recording. Awesome. That day that Lilith hit Taurus and ended up being a very polarizing day for me. This was the day where my guides, who are tied to music or tied to everything, all my projects, all the work that they want me to do, they coordinated the tower with the stream of the Take That 2011 concert, and I was like, thank fuck. So they basically ushered me out of a situation through a tower moment. The guy's scratching his head, but he knows damn well. And it's totally tied to the book, totally tied to Paul Gallico, because the guy that I had the tower with was friends with Paul Gallico wrote Poseidon Adventure, and he's the guy that's got his thumb in my back for one of my big my sex comedy novel series, okay? And so they're priming me for Pisces house. That's what they're doing. And it's just knuckle down time. And we were farting around too much. This guy's got his own work that he keeps ignoring Paul Gallico, okay? So they blew shit up. Now, one of the things for this, okay? So this is where, like, I won't... For me, work guides, okay? So there you've got everything crosses paths, right? The people that are helping you with your home life, the people that are helping you with your relationships, the people that are helping you with trauma, the people that are helping you with personal goals, but also the bigger soul goals. They all cross paths, and they're all coming from different arenas, right? And so here's where I get into the writers that have been helping me. Agatha Christie was the first one, and really it's just, I can't prove it all quickly by going through this, okay? That's what, I've got a website I'm building for that, right? But this is part of, when you keep track of things, yes, then you don't have to keep being spontaneous in what you say. You can go, hang on a second, here's my affidavit, here's my witness statement, right? Which I also help with. But Take That actually crossed paths. The last song that they sing in the concert, has the lines here and at last we meet in no man's land, which completely ties to the work that I've just been doing in the short story writing, where I use the term no man's land because Gwendolyn McEwen wrote a book called No Man, and then Gallico writes a book called The Boy Who Invented the Bubble Gun. And a few years after Gwendolyn published her first book, Julian the Magician, and Gallico's main character in The Boy Who Invented the Bubble Gun is Julian, and he likes to pretend he's a magician. And then they get on a bus. There's just Agatha Christie's mentioned, Ravel is mentioned. I go and make a comment to the days before I start reading this book, because I ordered it. I make a comment. Somebody is French in the Sloan Bella group, right? Researching Keith's, investigating Keith's death. And somebody French leaves me a very long complimentary comment on my investigation. And so I thank her, because Ravel and Seurat are two of my main influences, shall we say. I won't say even guides at that point, but let's say influences. Although Seurat, definitely. Next thing you know, Ravel shows up in Gallico's book. Right? It's like there's just... Okay? So, the crossovers. Benny Hill came through. He's gonna be a figure in my book that I've been working on since 2015, okay? Anime that I watch with my son, Monster, okay? My own initials show up in it. I always show up in his anime shows. I'm like, here, Mom, I'm in this one. But this is stuff about Tesla, the Detective Club, Dorothy Sayers. I need to say Dorothy Sayers and C.S. Lewis, Jack. I've got, so again, my investigative work totally is crossed over, and the same guides are helping me with the investigative work as with the creative work, okay? If I can put that in a nutshell, okay? And this helps me get a grip on all of that. I know it's in, but again, I'm doing it especially for this, right? Okay, so then they put the composer, Hani Arani, my way, and solved, literally, shout out to Taro Victoria again, because the missing piece from this puzzle, absolutely same time as I got them. This is me, and this is Hania, right? And I feel like she's got the other life that I would have lived. I totally was in a piano for 8 years struggling, and the music wasn't coming through to me, but also there were many, many blocks around it in the people around me. I grew up around professional musicians because of my mom. So the musicians, my mom and my grandma, and one of my mom's best friends, who was my muse, my guru, Devora Marcuse. Muse is in her last name, right? She was an atheist Russian Jew who survived the Holocaust and who was blacklisted in the States with her husband, who was a sociology prof. So they came to Canada, and then she ended up being one of my private music teachers, because my mom would do that to me, but I couldn't engage properly. Devora had such a large personality, I was terrified of her, and eventually elected to quit working with her after 2 years. But then I kept going back to her for visits over the years, and she always told me, do what you want to do. Do it, right? And so, a huge life presence. She was the source of comfort when my mom died, though she doesn't know it. The source of strength. And so I know all of that's coming through. Yeah, I'll skip over. There are homes connected to my cleaning clients. Okay, so DARPA is a huge part of it. It's going to tie to all, it's tied to everything. I've got stuff here about the 215 children. We need to just start, I know that there were lawsuits started in the States against people who pay into the churches with tithes. Yes, they're religious payments, and they're funding all the criminal activity. Yes, we have to just acknowledge that these are just mafias, but they're huge. I mean, it's tied to the banking, it's tied to the trade, it's tied to everything. So how do you go after, I mean, Goliath is beyond description at this point, right? Palestine, we had marches even in Winnipeg for Palestine. Tanzania and Madagascar, shout out to Tanzania and Madagascar. Tanzanian president spoke out saying, no, we're not going to do the vaccines. We're going to do the health thing. We're going to, here's, you know, and within days he was dead. Okay. Another guide I need to shout out to. Matilda Jocelyn Gage, who is the mother-in-law of Frank Baum, Wizard of Oz. Okay, and I have Wizard of Oz illustrations printed up. Not the first book, but John R. Neal, who illustrated the remaining, you know, all the other books. I have printed up and framed a lot of his work. So he's John R. Neal. Thank you, John, and thank you, Frank. But his mother-in-law was cut out of. She was with Susan B. Anthony and what's her face? Oh God. It'll come to me. There were the Holy Trinity. Now, Matilda made friends with a lot of women in First Nations tribes, learned from them how pivotal and equal women were before Europeans came, and refused to trade with the women. The women were equal traders, yes? And the Europeans refused to do business trades with them. And that was huge start to the shit. But they were, you know, equally represented on councils, and so Matilda was like, we need to do this. There's no other thing to do but to model ourselves after, to model everything. It all belongs to them, but also it's a better system. Okay, so she showed up. I can't even remember exactly how, but she came through again. So here she is. And, I want to say shout out to Mura. My son loves Mura for the Berserk series. Huge series printed by Dark Horse Comics, and it actually has outsold Hellboy, which is one of my personal favorites. But he lost his hero in all of this, which at the same time catapulted him in his drawing abilities. He went from being sort of a student drawer to being absolutely accomplished, and the lines are clean. And so my first drawing student came full circle in this month, at the same time as I'm rebuilding and resetting my drawing website. Yes, so that's I'm extremely somebody that came through for me while I was working on the diary. Okay, a Canadian artist. I think one of the first people that actually I sensed was coming through to me, Christiane Flug. So I'm going to carry her with me into the cruise ship in terms of, because here's another way things overlap. Yes. Here, one of the people in my contacts is Ursula Sven. She was one of my drawing students. She reposts on Facebook a post from a victim that was also posted by one of my enemies, back connected to the Hampstead stuff. I first saw my enemy posting it, and then Ursula repeats it, and so I retweeted it, okay? And he's talking about what happened to his grandfather. So here comes Ursula, right? And then the Ursula in my life, Christiane Flug. I already have her back in my group photo, the composite of my guides. There she is right there. Okay. So she and Gwendolyn. But so because I go back and I get my composite of these guys, they're not victims anymore, but they sure as hell left as victims. And she died very horribly. But because of that, then I pull her back, and I realize that she's speaking to me now, and one of her daughter's names is Ursula, right? And I know that there's a painting with Ursula in it, and that's the painting. Tragically Hip released. Now I've got a huge project that I've been working on for 3 years. I filled in one of Seth Godin's focus journals. Is this mine or my kids'? This is mine, okay. This is all my cross-country poetry reading plan. Of my own poetry that I still have to finish writing, okay? But in honor of Gord Downey and of the Tragically Hip and his Secret Path charity endeavor, right? That they killed him off for. And so they were releasing a new video for the Hip, and I finally mentioned it to them, okay? So then that project comes back to the foreground. There I went and found the artist who's married to another artist for their poster. Okay, so I'm gonna carry the music of Hani Irani. I found another group, the Sona Jobarta and band. Sona Jobarta. I gotta check out the pronunciation for that. But I want to do a painting of JDS as well, because he frames his shots so incredibly well that it just speaks to me. And then, of course, last but not least, I put this in after the fact, but Marisha, I need to give her 3 Loca. She's one of my absolute favorites. And Cancer, follow your inner compass. They won't be happy anyhow. Follow your inner compass. What did we figure out? What did I figure out the last time was that to use the 4th house as compass, right? So there's that affirmation. Okay, so that's, that would be Kali coming through again, as far as I'm concerned. Coming full circle. You know, the primary personality in all of this that connects with me, especially, about the Aquino stuff. Okay, because when she showed up, she had a long thin black metal tube holding down against me, and the murder weapon that's reported to have been used on the sword that was used on Michael came in a long thin black tube. So yeah, that is what I have to say about guides. Is there anything, let me just flip through quick one more time in case there's something obvious I'm missing. But again, that Bruce Lee thing of, yeah, I did my mom's birth chart. That yellow, so again, Oshun. They tied everything, it's just be tied, you get to the point where everything is, you should, hopefully, I guess the point is if you do it right, then you gain total perspective and total grip of what is yours and what they've put on you and what they're working with you on, right? Like, there's nothing outside of this. There's nothing outside of what's in here that should exist for any other house. This affects all the other houses. So I don't think there's much I've left out. There are people, there are authors I've left out. There are victims I've left out. You know, because you can't get it all in, right? But they are all here in on it, right? And they will have their time. So that is what I have to say. If I've left something out, then it will be in the extended version. There will be repetition, of course. So I'm thinking you'll probably just watch this one. But thank you so much. And now I will clear up, eat something, and get straight into Pisces. I've been working on, I've overlapped. Same as, oh, this is the thing to say. Same as the 4th house overlapped with the 8th, and I don't think it was just time management. I do think it's characteristic of the 4th house and Cancerian problems. Okay, the bleed out, the overlap of looking after everything, making sure everything is taken care of. But I did accomplish total calm. I even experienced happiness by the end of this. How could you not to accomplish all of this? But to absolutely, the houseboat, I would just like to stay in it for a while and relax. I would. And I will be thinking of Diana, and children is what I'll be thinking of. The children that are trafficked in the world. And Audrey knew it too. Audrey was cancered for it. She had I believe a black widower connected to her. If you look into Robert Wolder's history. Sorry, Robert, but it's looking that way. But you know, she was the UN ambassador to Africa, and she would have said plenty, and they just didn't let her. So so thank you, Audrey. And yeah, that's my phone's buzzing, so that's that. My phone, but yes, no, I mean, DH Lawrence, I need to shout out to DH. He's waiting for me in Pisces. It's his season. That's his season, as well as Gallico's. But DH, I've been avoiding DH. I've been upset with DH. And so, yeah. Yeah, a copy of his book Apocalypse. Yeah, DH's Apocalypse. You know what? Bear with me. This is Apocalypse, and I got this back in March of 2015, and I had no idea what it was going to do to me. And he gets into all the astrology, and this is the book that was published after his death. He died March 2nd. I think this was published within a couple of years of his death. He died at age 44. And he's been with me. They've made sure I understand that he's been with me, and I just got another rainbow from him. And he's been with me all along. But they stay with me close to bed. Gallico's Poseidon Adventure, absolutely. Which just, bear with me one more second even. This is the book I sleep with every night next to my pillow. If you can see it. One of my clients gave it to me, not knowing. She gave it to me while I was helping, doing my best to help Jessica Lee Collins, Biden, Andrew, Epstein, everybody victim, yeah? She was taken into Virginia court and is in a Virginia jail on false charges. They set her up just to lock her up inside to keep her quiet. And yeah, Epstein and Andrew raped her together. The problem is it's very hard to help somebody I was going to fly down to the Virginia courthouse to be with her, because if somebody's not physically present, there's no threat, right? And so I needed to be there, and then COVID lockdown happened right at the same time as I was going to book the flights. I had enough air miles, and I was, yeah, I'm not even joking. And so, not that I would have stopped anything from happening, but, you know, being physically present. But the thing also is she was having a hard time. She was so panicked. She's been through enough processes before. They killed her daughter as well, and exposed an FBI ring. The daughter did, accidentally, I guess. But, so no, but because she was also naming Biden as well as Trump, right? Because everybody's involved. So, but this book came to me at that time as a sign. And so, I've never got over this. Gwendolyn also. These people all stay close to me. This is one of the first books. This is the first book that ever caught my attention. And last year I forgot to celebrate Gwendolyn on her birthday, and I went looking for a way to do it, and found this book, and it's got her writing in it. It's actually her biographer's copy, who did the sacrilegious thing of actually writing in it. I've erased half of what she wrote, and then I kept the other half as evidence. But I've been connected to somebody who also, well, that's a whole other story. But anyway, these people I keep close, and yeah, this is how close. This is how much it matters. But so Jessica Lee Collins is still in jail. She's still fighting they're trying to get her listed as psychologically unhinged, basically, right? They're trying to do the only thing that they can do and discredit her abilities to think. And I had a friend who had successfully fought back in the UK against that. You can't use somebody's trauma against them as when making decisions about their housing or their rights or anything like that. It's discriminatory. There is an act in the UK against that, and in the States there's a legislation against it as well. They don't have acts in the States, but they do have other things. And so looked that up. I found all of the case history that she needed, but again, she disappeared on me the same night that David Schurter blocked me. So yeah, we carry on. And thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop this now because it's gonna go long, because that's what it's like with guides. Now for Pisces. Oh. All right. I hope this helps. Oh, look at that. That's so framed so perfectly. Thank you, Diana. I'm just looking at the screen now. Okay, gonna go cry.